I am finally getting around to talking about Miss Universe Philippines 2023. Yesterday, when I was watching it, I recorded basically the whole show on my computer, like screen recorded while I was watching, and then come to find out, as soon as the show ends, I say, okay, stop and save, and then I go and look for the footage, and literally only 1 hour out of the 4 to 5 hour show was saved on my computer. This depressed me so much that I just decided not to face my problems, and I rearranged my living room instead. But today I am back with the strength to do this video because we just simply have to talk about Miss Universe Philippines. Okay, it was crazy, it was wild, it was insane. It was nothing like I expected. First of all, we have to talk about the opening number. So they had the girls wearing these black outfits, and I know they're like designer outfits or whatever, but they were black. And the background of the stage was also pretty dark. And then again, the lighting wasn't the best, I must say. The final show's camera work was much better than the preliminary show, which by all accounts, I know a lot of people were disappointed in. But the final show's camera work to me was fine. It was just the lighting was off. I think if you're going to have contestants in black outfits, you have to make sure the lighting is top notch. And the outfits have to have a lot of detail to them, a la Miss Universe 2023 Albany's final gown, in order to really stand out and pop against a dark background and perhaps inadequate lighting. So there's that. Some of the opening number outfits were sort of lingerie-y, some of them were very swimsuit-y. So the opening number outfits really didn't do it that much for me. And obviously, as a South African, I have to point out the fact that our girl and my personal Lord and Savior, Zosie Binitunzi, was at Miss Universe Philippines this year. She was one of the many incredible charismatic hosts there. And I must just point out, before we get into anything, Zosie's outfits, oh my goodness. She did 3 outfit changes into these magnificent gowns. All 3 of them so stunning and just unique, and basically everything that I want to see on the Miss Universe stage. Really, I must say that Filipino designers are the best of the best in the world, especially when it comes to gown design. Because Zosie just looked stunning throughout the entire competition. Now, before the top 18 was announced, Miss Universe Philippines also had their very own Steve Harvey moment where the wrong girl was awarded the wrong award. So they had the Miss Friendship Award, of course, which is basically Miss Congeniality. And that went to Agusan Del Norte. But then right after this, they were like, no, we're so sorry, we made a mistake. It's actually Capiz that won the Miss Friendship Award, and Agusan Del Norte is face of social media. But the girls, obviously, they took this in stride and nothing much came of it. It was just a little bit interesting that the host made this type of mistake early in the competition. Or should I rather say, it's actually better that they made this mistake earlier in the competition rather than later. But later came an even bigger issue, which we'll get into. And so the top 18 was announced, and I won't go through all of them, but I must say all of my top 10 made it from my prediction. Every single one of my top 10 made it into the top 18. I had a top 16 prediction, but nevertheless 11 out of 16 of my favorites made it into the top 18 at Miss Universe Philippines, which I was so happy about. When it came to the swimsuit competition, I was very impressed with the swimsuit that they chose. I mean, they weren't couture swimsuits, okay? They were just actually basic average swimsuit, but the colors were so beautiful. And it was also sponsored. This section of the competition was brought to you by some water company, so I thought the swimsuits were very fitting. The swimsuits also weren't like a cool blue, they were sort of like a warmer type of blue, which I felt suited all of the girls' skin tones beautifully, unlike the black opening outfits. Filipino women on the whole usually have more of a olivey or warm undertone type of skin tone. They don't usually have a cool undertone in their skin, which means that the clothing that they wear have to complement that. And I definitely thought that These swimsuits were absolutely gorgeous. They also came with these beautiful capes with this sort of shiny see-through type of mesh material in a very simple cut, but I thought that just added to the beauty. And as a whole, I just liked the vibes of the swimsuit outfits. As a whole, the girls who really stood out for me when it came to swim was Agusan Del Norte, Bohol, Makati. Oh my goodness, Michelle Dee definitely deserved her win because she just stood out the entire time. The entire time Michelle was up front and center. And then of course Zambales and Baguio also stood out when it came to swim. And at the end of the day, the best in swimsuit award was awarded to Baguio. So no surprise there. I must also say, during the swimsuit segment, they had this entertainment, like two men doing vocals and a woman by the DJ stand, and that really slapped. Like, that slapped. They did such a good job, the entertainment team that they had there. But sadly, during the swimsuit competition as well, during the final walkthrough, so when the girls were done walking, they obviously all came back, all 18 of them walked in a little circle and then walked off stage again. But during this circle walking, unfortunately Cebu province fell down, which the camera just caught that, like just within an inch. So I hope she was okay, but when the camera cut back, she was up on her feet again immediately. So she definitely handled that like a true professional. I would be lying there like, no, my life is over. Just leave me here to die. Just leave me here to die. So embarrassing. And then the top 10 was announced. And I'm saying top 10 in parentheses because if you know, you know. Out of the top 10, 7 out of 10 of my personal top 10 made it, which I was very impressed by. Okay, unfortunately Pampanga and Cebu province, who were big favorites and also in my personal top 10, did not make it, but I didn't think that much of it. I was a bit surprised that Pampanga didn't make it, to be honest with you. But then again, you know, you can't always have your way. So I was like, okay, 7 out of 10 of my top 10 are in the top 10. That's fine, I guess. And then came possibly the longest ad break in pageant history. This thing was probably an hour long. Within this ad break, I had gotten up, made dinner, ate dinner, and sat back down. And come to find out, this break was so long because there was actually an issue with the score calculation system. So they were using this automated score calculation system. There was a technical issue with it, so they had to switch over to manual calculation. They had to get someone in who's really good at math in order to calculate the scores by hand, or should I rather say by brain and calculator. Okay, so that's why the break was so long. And they figured out that somehow the top 10 scores got messed up. So the top 10 that they had announced was not the actual top 10. And they said that the entire top 18 would come back and do gown as well. And then out of the top 18, they would go to a top 5. And to be honest with you, they could have probably just been like, you know what, we're not going to now announce to the entire world that our system was glitched, we're just gonna let it go. But they didn't do that. They still gave the entire top 18 a fair chance, and I can appreciate that. Now, let's get into my favorite part, the gowns. Agusan Del Norte looked so simple, you know, her gown was simple, but I thought that she looked beautiful and regal in her gown as well. Bohol was definitely giving angel, like straight up angel, but you know what? She was giving more Oksana Fedorova from Miss Universe 2001. This gown was just such a beautiful copy, but upgraded a bit of that gown with a little bit of a cape, and I really liked Bohol. You know, I like that throwback to Oksana Fedorova's gown, which is so iconic. Then we have Pampanga. And with Pampanga, you know, I was a little bit like, oh, you know, are gloves really still a thing? Are gloves still a thing? It's not altogether my favorite look. I think it could have done without the gloves, to be honest with you. Eastern Samar, gorgeous gown. Gorgeous gown. The color and quality was all there. I really, really love this. Makati had this simple black gown on. She looked very elegant, I'll give her that. But altogether, it's not my fave. You know, it needs something extra. Like Arbany's gown had so many details, which is why, to me, that was the only allowable black gown in the history of pageantry. With Makati, the lighting on stage was just too dim, the background was too dark, unfortunately for me to really appreciate the gown. I will say her performance was top-notch, but that's just because she's Michelle Dee. I mean, come on. Then we have Paranaque. Paranaque was just, she was straight up wearing a Miss World gown, and it was so wrinkled, and it reminded me of like crumpled up tissue. You know, when you've had a good cry and you've been using pink tissue paper, and at the end of your cry, they're all just lying there next to your bed, all 25 of them. That's what Paranaque's gown reminded me of, so not good. Then we have Chayong Quezon, who was wearing this beautiful mosaic dress. I thought that the mosaic on the dress was done beautifully. It's not like your basic average sort of mirror dress that we got a la 2019. I really appreciated this gown actually. But I did think for this specific woman, it would have suited her better in gold. For Sorsogon, she looked very regal. The skirt I thought needed a little bit of extra detail though. Her shoes also caught up in the dress the whole time, unfortunately. Mandaluyong looked pretty, but I don't think her gown was anything groundbreaking, you know. Same for Bacolod. Again, she looked pretty, but is it really something new? Does it stand out? I didn't think so, unfortunately. When Cebu Province came out, I was like, this is something that I like. It was detailed, but still structured, and she did a real slow-mo turn. Like, I'm not talking Catriona Gray slow-mo turn, I'm talking like, you can hardly detect that she's turning slow-mo turn. With Marinduque, she looked very pretty in yellow. I definitely think that yellow is her color. Zambales, oh my goodness, I loved the silk. The silk, it was such a dress fit for a queen, and she was the master of that cape. I mean, that cape did not know what it had coming. Cavite looked like she was struggling to walk a bit, which was very unfortunate. Davao Oriental came out in this bright blue dress, and it just looked so gorgeous against her skin. Baguio was just stunning. Her waist looked super tiny in this dress. It was such a beautifully made dress and well thought out and constructed gown as well. Just stunning. Isabella just came out looking like another angel, but the corset top is a bit dated. You know, I like the fact that Bohol's angel gown was, you know, giving 2001, you know, was a bit retro, but corset tops are a very recent thing. Like, they were in 2021, and I feel like Isabella's gown just, it looks a bit dated because of that. Bulacan's dress could be 10 centimeters longer, but the color is beautiful though. My favorite gowns ended up being Eastern Samar, Cebu Province, Zambales, and Baguio. But at the end of the day, the winner of the best in gown was Makati, which I'm not surprised by that much because the scoring obviously did take into account as well the overall look, the overall feel, performance, all of that. Although I do definitely not think that Makati's gown itself was anything special. So the top 5 ended up being Baguio, Pampanga, Zambales, Bohol, and Makati, who I wasn't surprised by. Pampanga, of course, wasn't in that top 10 that was announced, you know, the wrong one. She wasn't even in the top 10. So I can just imagine the feelings that Pampanga felt getting into the top 5 when, like, some time ago she didn't even think that she'd make top 10. She thought her journey was over. So that must have been amazing for Pampanga. There unfortunately was no Agusan Del Norte in the top 5. You guys know I have been simping for Agusan Del Norte. She was just such a queen. I definitely think she should come back or eventually represent the Philippines somewhere because she is just amazing. But in the top 5 eventually from my original top 5 was Bohol, Makati, and Baguio. All 3 of these women who I loved and adored. Makati, of course, was my second runner-up, Baguio was my first runner-up, and Bohol was my third runner-up. So I was happy to see all 3 of these women. At the end of the day, I did get 3 out of 5 of the top 5, which I think is pretty good. Then came the top 5 Q&A, and I must say, at Miss Universe Philippines this year, they did give the girls some pretty tough questions, which I'm happy about. I mean, these girls aren't ditzy bimbos. I mean, these girls are educated and driven women, you know, so why, there's no need to go soft on pageant queens when it comes to questions, especially socio-political questions or questions to do with the current culture of the world and things like that. So I was so happy that Big U got the trans athlete question to do with whether or not we should let people who went through male puberty, whether or not we should allow them to compete against women who went through female puberty. You understand? There is a very big debate in the world currently about this, because more and more we are seeing trans women who have gone through male puberty competing against women who have gone through female puberty, and the difference is staggering. Biological differences are definitely there, but don't take my word for it, because I think Big U was on the right path with her answer, although I would have liked her to elaborate a bit. She said that she was not in favor of allowing trans women to compete in sports against non-trans women or cis women or whatever, and so she said that, and then she said there are biological reasons for this, but I wish she would have just, you know, added a little more detail, you know, gone into some specific biological differences. For example, people who have gone through male puberty, their lungs are larger, their hearts are larger, their veins themselves allow more blood and oxygen and things like that, which is why some of the worst male swimmers on a swim team can easily beat some of the best female swimmers on a swim team, for example. It's not equal, and I wish she would have gone into some more detail about that and elaborated a bit, but I definitely think that she was on the right track with her answer. Pampanga also got an interesting question, whether or not movies and TV shows and things like that portrays the Philippines in a bad light and highlights the negative things going on in the Philippines, whether or not those should be banned. And Pampanga basically said, no, we shouldn't ban anything portraying negative things about the Philippines. We should rather face the reality that there are negative things going on in the Philippines and work to change those things. And the good as well as the bad should be portrayed, and people should just actively work to eradicate the bad. And I thought that was a sound answer to give. Bahul got a question which was, how do we make digital spaces safer for women and children than, you know, already has been made? And she basically didn't give a very precise or concise answer. I thought that she should have definitely gone into some legislative territory, like some physical concrete changes that could be made, but she unfortunately did not do that. Zambales also got a very interesting question, which was, what does she think of the AI impact on the job market? As you know, more and more AI is probably going to be replacing humans soon at jobs. And Zambales gave a great answer. She talks about the fact that this would have a negative impact on the economy, and we shouldn't underestimate human resources and their ability to boost the economy, because if AI takes over manual labor, for example, too much, and even some other types of labors that AI could easily take over, then those people with those specific skills are going to not have any job and still are going to have to be relying on the government, and then the economy is going to go downhill anyway. And I definitely understand what she was getting at. She didn't explain it so concisely, but I definitely think that she was on the right track with her answer. That's what I thought. She definitely gave the right sort of answer. Makati obviously closed the show when she was asked how we could close the income inequality gap. And coming from a developing country, a very much impoverished country, I really appreciated Michelle's answer. So it came down to quality of education. And when people think quality education, they usually think, the teachers being qualified or even overly qualified, or the system, the curriculum being followed being a very good system. But I see it definitely as being able to provide students with every single thing they need. Being able to provide students with the transport to get to school, with the tools that they need in school, in terms of stationery, all of that, Wi-Fi, electricity, all of that. Those are huge problems in developing countries, and also in the Philippines, I know that. And in my country, for sure, definitely transport to schools is one of the major issues. Electricity in schools, having copy machines that works, all of this combined, the whole system should be upped in quality in order to provide quality education to students. It's not only about the qualification of the teacher or the system, exact schooling system, exact material being taught to children. It's about being able to provide students with every single thing they need in order to make their schooling experience as simple and enjoyable as possible, for them to want to stay in school, for them to fall in love with academia. And that is what is most important. And I definitely think that Makati is on the right track, and that is what will probably start closing the income gap. We definitely, especially in some developing countries, most of the money is not going where it should go. Most of the taxes being raised is not going into the schooling system, not going into the hospitals, and that is a huge issue. And I definitely think that once the governments get it together, then everything else should just fall in line. So for the final question, all 5 contestants got the same question, and of course some of them had to wear these noise cancelling headphones, as you do at pageantry nowadays. And it was so interesting because the final question basically came down to what is the best that we can give to the world. Now, some of the girls interpreted the word we as us as individuals, as in what can Rina give to the world, what is the best that Rina can give to the world. And some of the girls interpreted it as we, the Philippines. So what is the best that the Philippines as a country can give to the world? So this made for some interesting answers. First of all, Baguio came and she talked about kindness. Now, Baguio could have been talking as an individual or as the Philippines as a whole. She believed that kindness is the best that we can offer the world. She's so sincere, and I just love Baguio. She was so sincere, and I just enjoyed her answer. Then we had Pampanga with, I think, a less good answer. She was talking about safe spaces for mental health, which is definitely also important, but it just wasn't as heartfelt or sincere as Baguio was. Bohol came and she fully interpreted the word we, meaning us, the Philippines, and she talked about the Filipino warmth, you know, the sort of hospitality that you encounter when you visit the Philippines. And I definitely think that Bohol's answer was pretty good. I honestly can't remember what Zambales' answer was, but I know that Makati's answer was top notch. Makati and Bohol had very similar answers. Makati also talked about the Philippines' hospitality, and at the end of the day, I think Makati and Bohol had the best answers of the bunch. So after this, Celeste did her final walk. She had this lovely gown, silk gown on. I definitely think she should have pinned her sash because it kept falling down, but during her walk there was audio playing talking about her journey, and at the end of the day she did pull on my heart a little bit when she talked about her father. Of course, she has Italian heritage, if you guys didn't know, and she was just lovely. So when it came time for the crowning, the second runner-up was Pampanga, the first runner-up was Zambales. Now, at Miss Universe Philippines, second runner-up and first runner-up basically means fourth runner-up and third runner-up, because the top 3 all get a title. Now, they said that they were going to be announcing the Miss Universe Philippines, and then the other 2 girls are basically going to be crowned or bestowed their titles afterwards, which, okay, that's fair, I suppose. And they crowned Makati as Miss Universe Philippines, as you guys know. But then later it came out that Baguio was Miss Charm Philippines, meaning that she will be going to the brand spanking new Miss Charm pageant, and that Bohol was Miss Supranational Philippines, meaning that she would be going to Miss Supranational in July, which is so interesting. I think that maybe the reason that they crowned these girls, off stage was perhaps in order to not draw attention too much to the fact that they held these other licenses, because as you know, Kun and Arbany and all of them were there. So maybe it was because of that. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about the fact that Makati won. I mean, she has represented the Philippines before at Miss World, which was my issue, right? When Anne took over, because Anne, she's so full of nonsense with all of her preferences. Who knows if she's going to have a problem with the fact that Makati has represented the Philippines before at Miss World. I mean, Makati didn't just represent. I mean, she got into the top 12 at Miss World 2019. So she was a major player. So I don't know if Kun Ann would have a problem with that. If she could forgive that, then I definitely think that the Philippines is in good hands with Makati this year. Let me know what you guys think about Miss Universe Philippines. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.